الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له هو يتولى الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم. So in continuation where we left off in the last lesson, we took the statement of the author rahimahullah ta'ala where he said وَلَا نِكَاحَ إِلَّا بِوَلِيٍّ وَشَاهِدَيْ عَدْلٍ وَصَدَاقٍ قَلَّ أَوْ كَثُرٍ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهَا وَلِيٌّ فَالسُّلْطَانُ وَلِيُّ مَنْ لَا وَلِيَّ لَهُ. So the statement of the author rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, and there's no marriage except with a wali, except with a guardian, and two just witnesses, and a dowry, whether it's a little or a lot. And whoever does not have a wali, whoever does not have a guardian, meaning whatever woman does not have a guardian, then the sultan, the leader, is the guardian of the one who does not have a wali. So we took numerous benefits connected to this issue last lesson. With regard to the issue of the wali, we mentioned that there's difference of opinion, but there's a qawlun rajih. There's a statement or there's a view that is the strongest. And in general, this is the case when it comes to many issues of fiqh, that you'll find that there's proof and evidence to support a particular opinion or view. However, usually there's one view where the proof and the evidence is stronger. So therefore, that is what the Muslim should take and should adhere to. So with regard to this issue of al-wali, whether or not a Muslim woman has to have a wali, we said the majority of the scholars say is what? Is sharut. It's a sharut. What's a sharut? It's a condition. It's something, a sharut is something that has to be in place before you do it. Okay? Before a man and a woman gets married, there has to be a wali. Who were the ones who said that it's not a condition? Which madhab? The Ahnaf, the Hanafis. They say it's not a condition. However, as the Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan said, this is a view that's marjuh. It's rejected. It's invalid. Because there are ahadith, explicit ahadith that establish that a woman has to have a wali. With regard to shahidei adl, this was asked in the last lesson with regard to the two just witnesses. Can one of them be a man and two women? Can one of them be a man and two women? The scholars say it has to be two men. It has to be two men. With regard to a woman or women testifying to something where you have a situation where it's only one man, then this is something that's connected to, for example, writing down debts. It's mentioned in Surah al-Baqarah. Ayatul Dain. This is the longest verse in the Quran with regard to debt. So if it's a situation where you only have one man and there's not another individual who's present, then it's permissible if there are two women who are present to testify and to bear witness to that debt.
Two men.
One man and two women.
Two men. If not two men, one man.
Ahsan, na'am. So if it's a situation, the origin is it has to be two men. Jazakallah khair. It has to be two men. And if it's only one man, then it has to be at least one man and two women. Ahsan. So, Jazakallah khair. Na'am. So with regard to what was mentioned already, the proofs and evidences that establish that a woman has to have a wali is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, "La nikaha illa bi wali wa shahidei adl." There's no nikah, there's no marriage except with a wali and two witnesses. So this hadith is explicit. So we mentioned this numerous times. A lot of times because people, the reality is because of dha'ful iman. People are weak in iman, so because of this, they'll try to find loopholes They try to find loopholes. If a sister, for example, doesn't have a wali that she wants to be the wali, her father is Muslim, he's alive, but for example, he's difficult to deal with. Sometimes sisters, they try to go around him. They try to appoint someone else, or they come to the masjid and say, can you be my wali? Right? This is not permissible. This is not permissible. There's only certain exceptions, but the origin is if the father is present, it's a Muslim father, then it has to be done through him. The last point that we stopped on was with regard to the statement of the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, وَصَدَاقٍ قَلَّ أُكَثُرٍ. He said, and a dowry, whether it's a little or a lot. And before we go any further, right, when it comes to the sunnah, with regard to giving the dowry, then the sunnah is what? To make it easy. To make it easy. It doesn't have to be any specific thing or a certain amount. One of the many issues and calamities, especially in Muslim countries, that many of the Muslim youth are experiencing is the muhur, the dowries are very high. For example, in Saudi Arabia, it's almost like the norm, right? And this is just amongst the regular people. The dowry is like 100,000 riyals, Saudi riyals. Yeah, it's like 25K in American money. And, Saudi, alhamdulillah, there's people over there who are rich, they have money, but the vast majority of people don't have money. So for a person to have this type of money, and then, it's going to take years. It's going to take years. So what happens a lot of times when people don't have the means to get married? Illa man rahimahullah, they're going to be falling into sins. Some cases, people are committing fornication and adultery, maybe even homosexuality, acts of homosexuality, iyadh billah. So it's a very serious issue and topic. So the origin is that the sunnah is that the dowry is something easy. There's a brother I know from Philly some years ago. He told me his dowry that he gave to his wife was a flower. A flower. When you tell brothers this, especially brothers who come from Muslim countries, they'll laugh. Even for us, that we say a flower. But it's not as, surprising. Because we live in America, we hear about crazy stuff. But for especially an Arab or someone from a Muslim country where the muhur, the dowries are expensive, then, it's like, what in the world? And that's how people, they look at it. But the reality is the sunnah is to make it something easy. So the Shaykh, al-Imam, he said, Imam al-Barbahārī, rahmatullah alayhi, وَصَدَاقٍ قَلَّ أُكَثُرٍ. And the dowry, whether it's something, whether it's a little or a lot. The Shaykh Fawzan, he says, أَمَّا الصَّدَاقِ فَلَيْسَ شَرْطًا لَكِنَّهُ وَاجِبٌ. A lot of people don't know this. He says, as for the dowry, it's not a condition. It's not a condition for the validity of the marriage. لَكِنَّهُ وَاجِبٌ. However, it's obligatory. It's obligatory. So if a person, for example, was to get married, he doesn't specify anything. Right? The sister didn't agree to anything, and the brother didn't mention anything, he still has to give her something. He has to give her something. And the Shaykh, he's going to mention this. وَلِهَذَا لَوْ عَقَدَ بِدُونْ صَدَاقٍ صَحَّ الْعَقْدِ. And this is why if a person was to do the marriage contract without the dowry, the contract is correct. It sounds. Think about it. There are a hadith where some of the companions, they gave as a dowry, that they're going to teach their wife some Quran. Can you do that right then and there once you get married? Think about it. Can you do that right then and there once she gets married? Surah al-Baqarah. I'm going to teach you this surah right now before we get married. It's not practical. All right, so this is a proof and evidence for this. It's not a condition that the dowry is given at the time of the marriage contract. وَلَكِنْ يُفْرَضُ لَهَا صَدَاقٍ مِثِيلَاتِهَا مكتوب مثيلاتها أيهما صح؟ مثيلاتها هكذا؟ Huh?
مثلاتها أو مثلياتها
مثيلاتها هكذا مكتوب. طيب مثيلاتها ما طيب. So
just like
نعم. So the Sheikh, he says, however, it's incumbent that the dowry is given to her, we would say is according to the norms or the customs. So, that could be kind of difficult to determine, right? If it's a younger woman, right, more than likely she's going to want, a little bit more. If it's an older lady or older woman, she might want a little less. Right? If the brother's saying if she's pretty and stuff like that, perhaps.
Or vice versa.
No, I mean, it goes back to the norms. It goes back to the norms. But something, a shahid, right, the point of reference, it has to be something. He has to give her something. Now, say a sister says, I don't want it. My brother gave her whatever, X amount of dollars, and she says, I don't want it. Can she do that? Islamically, can she do that?
Yes.
She can give it back to her husband?
Yes.
What's the proof and evidence? Huh? So you say the brother saying she can't return it because it's obligatory for him to give her the dowry. Everybody,
she has to take it, then do whatever she wants to do with it. But she has to take it, accept it.
the brother says she has to take it and accept it, and then after that she does whatever she wants.
That's what they do back home. They
طيب.
give it to the father and mother to finish their marriage.
That's another issue. That's another issue. Yeah, that's not a proof and evidence. So the proof and evidence that shows that it's permissible for a woman to give back the dowry or parts of it is the verse in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th verse. وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً فإن طبن لكم عن شيء منه نفسا فكلوه هنيئا مريئا. And give the women their dowry. You could say graciously. But if they give up any parts of it or some of it willingly, then take it in satisfaction and ease. This is an explicit verse. So if a person gave his wife, $10,000, for example, and she says, you can have 5 of it, I don't want but 5,000, it's permissible. The other issue that the brother mentioned, this is something that happens a lot in Muslim countries where the father takes the dowry and he does whatever he wants with it. Perhaps he uses parts of it for, the walima or other aspects. This is not permissible. This is not permissible. And you see in some countries, especially poor countries, for example, like Yemen, where it's almost like they're selling their daughters. Allahu musta'an. It's almost like they're selling their daughters. So the mahr, the dowry, it goes to the wife. It goes to the wife. If the father was to take it without her permission and do whatever he wants, this is a form of oppression. The statement of the author rahimahullah ta'ala قوله ومن لم يكن لها ولي فالسلطان ولي من لا ولي له. And whoever does not have a wali, then the sultan, the Muslim leader, is the wali for the one who does not have a wali. So we mentioned the individuals whom can be a wali. In the last lesson, who recalls? So it starts with the father, al-jad, the grandfather, wa-in ala, right? Even, right, if it's higher than that, like the great-grandfather. If he's alive, for example. If the father's not there, the grandfather's not there, if the great-grandfather, and this doesn't seem, realistic, but if he's alive, then he will become the wali. So, this is from the father's side. This is from the father's side. So we're going to mention it because Sheikh Fawzan, he actually mentions more. He mentions some more. So he says, لا بد من الولي. لا بد من الولي. So there has to be a wali. والولي هو عصمة الزوجة. الأقرب فالأقرب. Al-wali is the relative, the male relative of the wife, and the closest to her. منهم أبوها. We already mentioned this. Her father. ثم جدها. وَإِنْ عَلَى. Then her grandfather, and then the one next up, meaning her great-grandfather, if he's alive. ثُمَّ إِبْنُهَا وَابْنُ إِبْنِهَا وَإِنْ نَزَلْ. Then her son, or the son of her son, her grandson, وَإِنْ نَزَلْ, even his great-grandsons. ثُمَّ أَخُوهَا الشَّقِيقِ. Then her full brother. ثُمَّ أَخُوهَا لِلْأَبْ. Then her brother on her father's side. Then her brother on her father's side. ثُمَّ عَمُّهَا الشَّقِيقِ. Then her full uncle. ثُمَّ عَمُّهَا لِلْأَبْ. Then her uncle, paternal uncle. Her uncle on her father's side. ثُمَّ إِبْنُ عَمِّهَا الشَّقِيقِ. So a lot of people don't know this. And then after this, and this is a lot of people, right? We just mentioned about five individuals. So if these individuals are not present, he said, then her full cousin. This is a wali. Her full cousin. ثُمَّ إِبْنُ عَمِّهَا لِلْأَبْ. Then her cousin on her father's side. هَذَا هُوَ وَلِيُّ الْمَرْأَةِ. So these are the wali for the woman. فَإِذَا قُدِّرَ أَنَّ امْرَأَةً لَيْسَ لَهَا وَلِيٌّ مِنْ عَصَبَتِهَا فَهَذِهِ يَتَوَلَّاهَا السُّلْطَانِ. So, hypothetically, if a woman didn't have a wali from her male relatives, then the one who takes charge of her affair is the sultan, the Muslim leader. وَمَنْ يَنُوبُ عَنِ السُّلْطَانِ وَهُوَ الْقَاضِي فِي الْمَحْكَمَةِ. And the one who takes the place of the sultan, the Muslim leader. And it is the Muslim judge in a court. We don't live in a Muslim country, as we mentioned before. So the scholars say the imam of a masjid, or someone whom, for example, is on the idara, on the administration. فَلَا بُدَّ أَنْ يَكُونَ لِلنِّكَاحِ ضَوَابِطٌ وَلَا يَكُونُ فَوْضًا بِحَسَبِ أَهْوَاءِ النَّاسِ وَشَهَوَاتِهِمْ. So when it comes to this issue of marriage, it's imperative that the regulations and the guidelines are adhered to. Right? It's not a situation of chaos and people doing what they want to do based upon their desires. So the next issue that we're going to take, this is connected to marriage as well. Full cousin? It goes back to the father. It goes back to the father.
So the cousin on the father's side, she can't marry.
She can marry.
He can.
He can marry.
Yeah, she can marry her cousin.
Muhram.
Okay,
Wali,
so
but you cannot muhram be.
Aywa?
No.
He can be wali, but cannot be muhram.
Yeah, he can be wali, but he can't. He's not a mahram. A cousin can be married.
I know
in
that.
Islam, yeah.
But you said that after the grandfather, the father, and the great grandfather, the father, and the grandfather will be after the son, and then the cousin, right?
Yeah, right, and then the cousin.
If none of them, then he can be.
You have to understand this. You have to, it's circumstantial.
Right.
But even if that is the case, that a woman's cousin is her wali, that doesn't mean they can be alone by themselves.
Absolutely.
All right, because he's not mahram to her.
Correct.
All right.
The person is shaitan. That's what I'm saying.
No. Now, so the issue that we're going to take now is connected to marriage, but it's another issue of marriage. And this is when things go sour. قال المؤلف رحمه الله وإذا طلق الرجل امرأته ثلاثا فقد حرمت عليه لا تحل له حتى تنكح زوجا غيره. So Imam al-Barbahārī rahimahullah ta'ala said, if a man divorces his wife 3 times, she's impermissible for him until she marries another man. So the statement right here, قوله وَإِذَا طَلَّقَ الرَّجُلُ امْرَأَتَهُ ثَلَاثًا فَقَدْ حَرُمَتْ عَلَيْهِ. If a man divorces his wife 3 times, she's impermissible for him. إِذَا طَلَّقَ الرَّجُلُ امْرَأَتَهُ طَلَاقًا ثَلَاثًا إِنْ كَانَتْ مُتَفَرِّقَةً فَهِيَ تَحْرُمُ عَلَيْهِ بِالْإِجْمَاعِ. So we're going to mention some different scenarios. So you need to pay attention, inshallah ta'ala. If a man divorces his wife 3 times, and they're separate occasions, he pronounces divorce 3 different times, she's impermissible for him by consensus of the scholars. And he gives an example. He said, كما لو قال أنت طالق ثم بعدها قال أنت طالق ثم قال أنت طالق. So, if a person said, you're divorced, and then after that he said, you're divorced, and then after that he said, you're divorced. أو قال أنت طالق ثم طالق أو فطالق بالفاء لأن هذا ترتيب فإنها تطلق وتبين من. So if a man was to say, and this kind of goes back to Arabic to a certain degree, أنت طالق, you're divorced. ثم طالق, then you're divorced. أو فطالق, and you're divorced. He said, because this is هذا ترتيب, it's in order. Then this woman is divorced and she is separated from him. She is completely separated from him. إذا بلغت الطلقات ثلاثا, right? If it is 3 divorces. وتحرم عليه, she's not permissible for him. حتى تنكح زوجا غيره, until she marries another man. قال تعالى الطلاق مرتان. Allah Ta'ala said الطلاق مرتان. Divorce is 2 times. فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. So either keep your wife with kindness or separate from her in kindness. إلى قوله تعالى فإن طلقها يعني الثالثة. Until the statement of Allah, and if he divorces her, يعني الثالثة, meaning this is the 3rd divorce. فلا تحل له من بعد حتى تنكح زوجا غيره. She's not permissible for him until she marries another husband. فإن طلقها يعني الزوج الثاني. And then if he divorces her, meaning the 2nd husband, فلا جناح عليهما أن يتراجعا إن ظن أن يقيما حدود الله. Then there's no sin or blame upon them if they think, right? Before that, there's no sin or censure upon them if they get back together, if they think that they can establish the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هذا إذا كانت الطلقات متفرقة ولو في مجلس واحد. And this is if the divorces are separate. They're separate even if it's in the same sitting. At that same time. في مجلس واحد. Right then and there. The person is pronouncing divorce 3 times. أما لو قال أنت طالق أنت طالق أنت طالق بدون حرف العطف نظرنا فإن كان يريد التأكيد بالتكرار فإنها طلقة واحدة. So this is very technical right here. If a person said, you're divorced, you're divorced, you're divorced, بدون حرف العطف. So حرف العطف is like well and fa and like this. نظرنا, then we look at the situation. If he intends by doing this, by repeating it to give emphasis, he's just giving emphasis, right? He doesn't intend 3 divorces. Then this is considered 1 divorce. It's considered 1 divorce. أما إن كان يريد التأسيس فإنها تبين منه إذا بلغت الثلاث الطلقات. So if a person, his intention is, he is establishing that it's over. He's establishing it's over completely. Then she's separated from him, right? It's irrevocable. If, it reaches 3 divorces. If it reaches 3 divorces. أما إذا كانت الطلقات بلفظ واحد. Alright, pay attention to this point. كأن قال أنت طالق بالثلاث أو قال أنت طالق ثلاثا فالجمهور على أنه يقع 3 وتبين به وتبين منه وتحرم عليه حتى تنكح زوجا غيره وهو مذهب الأئمة الأربعة. So if a person said you're divorced with 3, right? This is laf wahid, right? With 1 wording. you're divorced with 3. Or you're divorced 3 times. So he doesn't say you're divorced and you're divorced and you're divorced. No, he says you're divorced 3 times. Or you're divorced with 3. The majority of the scholars, he said, say that this takes place. That the 3 divorces take place and she's separated from him completely. وَتَحْرُمُ عَلَيْهِ. Right, she's impermissible for him.
So that's
until she remarries another husband. And this is the madhab of the 4 ai'. Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, al-Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmad. They all said this. That if a man was to say, you're divorced 3 times, then it takes place. And then Shaykh Fawzan, he says, وَفِي قَوْلٍ لِبَعْضِ الْمُحَقِّقِينَ أَنَّ الثَّلَاث بِلَفْظٍ وَاحِدٍ تَكُونُ طَلْقَةً وَاحِدَةً. So there's another view by some of the scholars, and they say that if these 3 are with one wording, like what we just mentioned, you're divorced 3 times. They say this is considered one divorce. وَالْمَسْأَلَةِ فِيهَا خِلَافٌ طَوِيلٌ. So this is a difference of opinion, and it's very lengthy. Right, you got a lot of speech from the scholars concerning this issue. وَلَكِنْ حَسْبُنَا أَن نَعْلَمَ أَنَّ الطَّلَاقَ الثَّلَاث يُحَرِّمُهَا. That which is sufficient for us to know is that 3 divorces make her impermissible. يُحَرِّمُهَا لَا عَلَى التَّأْبِيدِ. And it's not forever. وَإِنَّمَا يُحَرِّمُهَا إِلَىٰ أَن تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. And rather, it's only until she remarries another husband. She's impermissible for her husband that divorced her 3 times until she remarries another husband. ثُمَّ يُطَلِّقُهَا. And then after that, the second husband has to divorce her. أَمَّا الدُّخُولِ فِي الْخِلَافِيَّاتِ فَهَذَا لَا يَعْنِينَ الْآنِ. As for us delving into the differing of opinion amongst the scholars, this doesn't concern us right now. There's another issue that's connected to when a man divorces his wife 3 times. It's something that's common in some Muslim countries, where a person, he divorces his wife 3 times, and he knows he divorced her 3 times. It's not even an issue where he's saying, I'm doubtful. Some of the brothers, they use the crazy card. And you hear this sometimes, the crazy card. I got so mad, I was about to kill her. Right? Right, we're not even talking about that, because brothers do that. But we're talking about an issue where a person is not denying that he pronounced 3 divorces. So what does he do? He'll go to another person. He might know him or he might not know him. And he'll say, marry my wife, then divorce her. And I'll give you such and such amount of money. Just let's think about it. Let's just think about it. Right? From a standpoint, Islamic standpoint, right? We know this is not permissible. In fact, if a person was to do this, the scholars say it doesn't even count. So a person just disgraced himself, had his wife sleep with another man for no reason, and then she got divorced from him, and then if he married her, the nikah is not even sound to begin with. But just from a standpoint of just using sense, you're literally you're hiring a prostitute to sleep with your wife. Just think about it. If things are that crazy that you have to do that, then you need to absolve yourself from that situation. There's plenty of fish in the sea. If a person feels the need and the urge to do something that crazy, to get back with that woman that you just divorced 3 times, something's not right. You're not playing with a full deck of cards. Clearly, you're not playing with a full deck of cards. But this is an issue that comes up. You hear about it sometimes in certain Muslim countries. This is something that they do. Wallahu musta'an. And this is a tala'ub bid-din. This is playing games with the religion. You have, people constantly talking about the Yahud this, the Yahud that. La'natullah ala, they say Israel. You're not even supposed to say Israel, because Israel is the name of a prophet. Say Dawlatul al-Yahud. Right? It's the land of the Jews. Right? But people are always talking about the Yahud 24/7, but they don't realize it. You act just like the Yahud. They were forbade from fishing on Saturday, and then they got slick and they thought they could, outsmart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put their nets in on Friday night, came back on Sunday, called it a day. This is a tala'ub bid-din. The same thing that the Yahud, that people are always talking about 24/7, a lot of Muslims do the same thing. Wallahu musta'an. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for safety and well-being. So the Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, he says, وَغَرَضُ الْمُؤَلِّفِ من إدخال هذه المسائل في العقيدة والله أعلم أن يبين أن أمر النكاح أمر مهم يجب العناية به. So the purpose, the objective of the author rahimahullah ta'ala for mentioning these affairs, right, of marriage, and we took other issues that's connected to fiqh. The reason why he mentioned it in this treatise dealing with creed, and Allah knows best, is to clarify that marriage is something very important. And it's imperative that concern is given to it. حسب الضوابط الشرعية له. And this is according to the Islamic guidelines. فلا يتساهل فيه وفي إجراءاته. So therefore, no negligence and heedlessness, should take place concerning this issue, or its procedures. ولأن الكتاب اسمه شرح-السنة أي بيان السنة في كل شيء ومن ذلك مسائل النكاح. And likewise he said, and because this book, what's the name of this book? Sharhus-Sunnah, an explanation of the Sunnah. So he says, meaning a clarification of the Sunnah in every aspect. And one of the aspects are مسائل النكاح, issues pertaining to a nikah. Na'am. So that concludes this point, and we'll suffice with this for tonight. وَسُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ.